great city and the greatest state in the nation. So I'm delighted that you got another affiliate there. You continue strong in our home state.
It's pretty close to Nashville, I see. I don't know how the signal goes, but I know we pick up the 40, which is good. I love getting the interstates. I love picking those up.
Yeah.
Senator, I want to cover two things with you. First, you and Tom Cotton, who's on a little bit later, have gotten a bunch of other senators to join in sending a letter to Christopher Wray, which I'm looking at April 13th, asking him to conduct an investigation into Dr. Colin Kahl, spelled C-O-L-I-N, capital K-H-L, who is nominated to be the Undersecretary of Defense, which is the number 3 job at the Pentagon. Why do you want the FBI to investigate Dr. Kahl?
This is something that didn't come up earlier in his hearings, but something that we uncovered, and it has to do with his unauthorized disclosure of sensitive and classified information. If you think about the seriousness of this, the gravity of the position that he seeks to hold, it's the number 3 position in the Pentagon, Hugh. When I was U.S. Ambassador to Japan, I dealt with a person in the previous administration that had that position on highly confidential situations, national security situations on a regular basis. The person that holds this job is going to have to be someone who completely understands and appreciates the important nature of sensitive information. And the type of information that it appears he's disclosed is the kind that would have to be dealt with in the most discreet manner, covered, carried only by the most secure means of courier. And here he is putting it out on Twitter. It really seems to you like there's a different standard if you're Hillary Clinton or Colin Kahl than if you were, say, another member of the administration in a Republican administration. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Have you heard back from Director Wray?
He just received the letter this morning, so I have not heard back yet, but I'm certain that he will take this very seriously. This is the kind of thing that would prevent a person from getting a security clearance. And you probably saw this over the weekend, Hugh, but the new UN ambassador to our United States UN ambassador, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, chief of staff, had to step aside because her security clearance was revoked for disclosing sensitive information. And her actions pale in comparison to what Kahl has done. Kahl went up on Twitter to disseminate this information that we're concerned about.
Now,
So
are you sure it's classified, Senator? Do you believe that what he put on Twitter genuinely is classified?
That's why we want to have a full investigation. It certainly appears that way to me. As I mentioned, as U.S. Ambassador to Japan, I was a member of the previous administration. I regularly dealt with information of this type. And if you look at what he disclosed, I mean, the one that strikes me most personally, Hugh, is what he talked about with North Korea. I mean, I was U.S. Ambassador to Japan while the situation with North Korea was raging. And in December of 2017, you remember North Korea had launched 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles over Japan at that point. We have 250,000 Americans in Japan. The largest contingent of U.S. military anywhere outside the United States is based there in Japan. Kim Jong-un is launching missiles over Japan, and here's Cole's tweet. He says, he's talking about a report of what's happening in the White House as we're considering military options. Kahl tweets out on December 20th, this report should be taken very seriously. Quote, here's his quote, there is a contingent at the White House that believes a limited strike is viable, and the U.S. can control escalation by threatening regime change if Kim Jong-un retaliates. Very dangerous thinking. That is our military posture with respect to a very hot situation. This needs to be investigated very closely. He's putting this on Twitter.
I will continue that conversation with Senator Cotton as well. But while I have you, Senator Haggerty, I want to take up your expertise as ambassador to Japan. I just talked with Admiral Stavridis about what would follow a Chinese attack on Taiwan, and it's not pretty. But a senior Japanese diplomat had occasion to tell me fairly recently that if Taiwan is attacked, the Senkaku Islands would fall soon thereafter. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that the behavior of China is most evident in Taiwan right now. Their incursions on Taiwanese airspace are regular. It's very similar to what the Chinese are doing in the Senkaku Island. It's all in the same general vicinity. So I appreciate the Japanese concern. I think we all are very concerned about what's happening in Taiwan, and I think the U.S. is going to stand strong. I've been pleased with the Biden administration's posture on it.
Why are you pleased? Because I have not seen, I know they're running the McCain between Taiwan and China, and I know that we have done other things, but I've also seen some incredible signals of weakness, such as the non-response to Anchorage, where the insults from the Chinese emissary were numerous and public.
Yes.
I saw a couple of stories floated about boycotting the Olympics, and then they were pulled back. I saw a story float about pulling strategic ambiguity away and actually substituting in strategic clarity about our intent to defend, if necessary, by force Taiwan. I'm not really encouraged by Team Biden, Senator.
Well, I think they started out on a bad footing, particularly with respect to China. If you think about it, they pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. I mean, China has no obligations to this for decades, and it immediately puts us at a disadvantage. Then they canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. Where's that oil going to go? It's going to go from Canada straight over to China, lowering their production costs. China's laughing all the way to the bank on this. And we saw what happened, as you mentioned, in Alaska, where China took a position, I think, that was very insulting. I don't think that our diplomatic team should have even taken an open meeting like that with media there, and they should have they should have just stepped up and walked away. I think that was very, very difficult. But with respect to Taiwan, I think that the Biden administration is taking a very hard look at our posture there. And I've been, as I said, I've been encouraged by the presence of our military, our Navy in the area, and I hope we continue to send a strong message to the Chinese that we're not going to tolerate their incursions in Taiwan.
Senator, if they attack Taiwan, would you expect us to sink all or most of their fleet?
I think there should be a response that would be of like kind. And depending on what the action is, I think we should take an appropriate and deliberate response that definitely shows our resolve to support and protect Taiwan.
Well, I have used the analogy to the Rhineland in the 30s, and when Germany reoccupied Rhineland, and as Admiral Stavridis said, there's a certain parallel there because of the ethnic similarities between a portion of the Taiwanese population, a portion of the mainland population, and that was, of course, the Reich's excuse in the 30s to take back the Rhineland. Does that mean an actual war if they invade that?
Well, an invasion is an act of war, and I think we will have to evaluate the circumstances as they evolve. But we have treaty obligations, and we have global expectations from our allies, Hugh. We've got to stand strong at a point in time when this administration is being tested at every turn.
Well, that brings me. Don't we need a clear statement that this means war? Because that's what we didn't do in the 50s in North Korea, and we ended up with an invasion. I mean, in the 40s, with Acheson leaving Korea out of our security statement, and Stalin read that as being, oh, they won't care. But yeah. So, do we think is Taiwan under our global security protection?
Well, this is an issue that I know the administration is wrestling with right now, and I've had discussions with Secretary Blinken on this matter. I think that the posture there is evolving as the situation evolves, and I'm going to continue to track it very closely.
You know, Putin's got 80,000 troops on the Ukraine border. They're flying incursions over Taiwan. It's not that hard to imagine they're coordinating this.
You know, the neighborhood is very challenging. You and I have talked about this before. That's the reason we have more U.S. military stationed in Japan than any place else in the world, because you've got North Korea, Russia, and China right there at your doorstep. And they are, again, I think, testing this administration at numerous terms. And we've got to stand strong and be diligent and make certain that they understand, they meaning North Korea, Russia, China, that we're going to stand with our allies, we're going to abide by our treaties, and we're not going to tolerate this behavior.
Technical question, Senator, going back to your ambassadorial days. Can planes that the United States has forward station, not the carrier that they have there and the carriers we dispatch or the submarine, but planes that are on the ground in Japan, can they reach China?
That's something that we never discuss in terms of our military capabilities, Hugh. And I think we have a very strong posture in Japan, I'll say that, stronger than any nation in the world. But
that's interesting. We've never disclosed. We've never disclosed what aircraft we have there and its range.
I think if you even try to find out the pace and the speed at which our ships move, it'd be very difficult to get that information.
Well, I guess that's reassuring, but I was wondering if we had any F-22s there, but I'm hearing you telling me we wouldn't disclose it if we did.
I'd prefer not to be in that discussion right now, given the sensitive nature of the information.
All right, Senator Bill Haggerty, good to talk to you. I think your Colin call letter is important. I'll continue the conversation with Senator Cotton when he arrives a little bit later in the hour. Don't go anywhere, America. I appreciate the senator, and